welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that is dripping gold in some undisclosed locations. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge, Season 38, Episode 20, The Reunion Part 2. And before we jump into it, I'm just gonna let everybody know that I'm not gonna be going through every single bullet point, every single sentence that was said, but I will go over some highlights and my opinions. And then tomorrow's Tiny Table Talk will be a comment palooza. So leave me any and all comments you have on this reunion because I want to feature a ton of comments from this video's comment section on tomorrow's Tiny Table Talk. And honestly, this reunion episode, this part 1, lived up to my hype for this reunion episode, which was kind of middling / not very hyped at all. I mean, let's be real. Part 1 of a reunion series is not going to have some earth-shattering, shocking, juicy details. They're gonna save that for part 2 to get you hooked up to finish this whole season out to the very bitter end. But in saying that, the reunion did have some moments, and I'll get into all of that. Let's first get into who's here and who is not at the reunion. So who is at the reunion is Darrell and Veronica, Vessel, Mariah, Kenny, Casey, Nerys, Nelson, Horacio, Olivia, Bananas, Nani, Amber, Chauncey, Tori, Devin, Laurel, Jack, Johnny, Raven, Jordan, Anissa, Michelle, and Jay. That leaves Colleen and Kim, Turbo and Tamara, Sam, Kayla, Tommy, Annalise, Nam, and Emmy not getting an invitation. And it was filmed in England, and some would be like, well, why isn't Sam and Kayla there? They lived there, but they only were there for like episode 1. They were there for maybe a week, a handful of days. So they might not have much to add in terms of content to this reunion, but there's a lot of people on here that didn't really get a whole lot of talking points in this reunion part anyways either, but we'll get into all of that. Let's first take a look at some of the outfits that really stood out to me in a not so great way. First, I want to say that I'm so happy that Jordan got a haircut. I did see his Global Championship picture already, and I'm just glad we're done with the mullet. He had the mullet in All-Stars 3, and he had the mullet for this season, but not here, and not moving forward to another season. Thank goodness. Johnny's jacket looks like he picked up a rug and made it into a jacket, and to me, it just looks, gosh, ugly. Jack and Laurel have the most questionable outfits out of any pair or duo on this stage. I mean, Jack really went for the punk farmer look here. I mean, I think this is something that Flea would wear on the stage for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Laurel went for the more artsy top. It's actually quite surprising because you have to think she actually paid Monet for that. In my opinion, it just needs to Van Gogh. All right, I'm done. That's all the painting puns that I could Rembrandt. And now this is done. We start off this reunion announcing that Amber is pregnant. Congratulations to Amber and Chauncey for announcing your pregnancy about a month prior to this on Instagram. But this was a big moment right at the beginning of this reunion. So if you're not following Amber or any of the challengers, then this was a surprise for you. We then get into a segment of all the partnerships that weren't really acting well together or working well together. And this was pretty standard up until we got to Johnny and Raven, and we get a little bit more into their dynamic coming into the house, where Raven is frustrated that she feels led on by Johnny. And this isn't any surprise to any of us, I'm sure of, that Johnny was always wanting some fun, while Raven wanted more from Johnny, but Johnny wasn't going to give that to Raven. But I do feel like in the lead up to coming onto the show, Johnny needed a partner. Raven was that person that he could always rely on being right there next to him. And then by the time they got onto the show, he was like, I got what I wanted. I got on the show. All right, see you later. Enjoy doing whatever you want to do. I'm going to be off doing whatever I want to do. This was their big moment in part 1. And of course, Nerys has to get in on this because she was kind of hooking up with Johnny at this time and has Johnny's back at the end of the day. And then they talk about themselves dripping gold and bronze. And that was like a real high point to end that segment and go into the first commercial break, where then we come back to a fan question for Vessel and who he would be paired up with, hook up with, or eliminate between Colleen, Michelle, and Laurel, he goes over to try to pull the safe dagger because they do have 3 daggers there at the reunion, in allowing contestants to get out of questions that may be too uncomfortable to answer. And of course, Fessel does not pick the safe dagger, and he cops out. He says Colleen isn't there, so he's gonna eliminate her. And then he can see himself doing the other 2 with the other 2 women. Just swap them around. Who cares? I can't make a decision. So he cops out. And then there was another fan question directed to Mariah, asking about if she used bananas to get further into the game by being in a relationship with him in the game. And Mariah's like, no, that's not how it happened. Then Maria brings up Veronica, who mentioned that bananas could have been using Mariah on this season to get farther. Maybe as like a PR stunt, maybe just to have fun in the game, kind of like, I don't know, be a player in the game. This makes things super uncomfortable for Johnny, who we all know he doesn't like to talk about his relationships anywhere on the show. Whenever cameras are around, he doesn't like to bring his personal life in on this. And so when this question is brought up and Veronica even just mentions like a few words about this, Bananas just is instantly uncomfortable, annoyed, and wants to move on as quickly as possible. I've watched a ton of reunions for the challenge, and to me, this is one of the most uncomfortable I've ever seen Bananas. And trust me, I watched the one where Paulie was dancing right next to Bananas, and at that point, I think he would rather 20 Paulies dancing around him than having to deal with this question, bringing up his dating and relationship history on a reunion. So then we get a full replay of Jay and Michelle, seeing them get into power, kind of go back on their friendship with Jack and sending in Jack and Laurel, and then sending in Jordan and Anissa, and then Jordan and Anissa getting into power to send in Jay and Michelle into elimination. We get a full replay. Like, there was just so much replay. They showed so much footage in between questions. It was astounding that they were just really trying to pump this reunion part 1 full of filler. One of the best parts of the first half of this reunion was Laurel talking about a story of her asking everybody for earplugs because she couldn't go to sleep. She hit her max. She wanted just to fall asleep, but everybody was partying. Everybody was being super loud. And then she slipped on toilet water, hurting her knee before the barrel challenge, and her losing her train of thought on like, what was even the original question, which was, why was Michelle going after Laurel? And it was just like, who cares? I mean, Laurel was really going in on Michelle. Michelle was holding her ground, and then Laurel tells Michelle that she'll never trust her because she won't admit that Michelle is afraid of Laurel. Then we get this like Jack and Jay feud where Jack instantly calls Jay fake because Jay asked him to go to the gym and lunch with him on an afternoon, and then he wanted to bring his camera equipment, and Jack was like, oh, he wanted to film Instagram stuff, and Jay was like, no, I'm a photographer and I was going to take pictures for you. That's where we're at with drama. We go to another commercial break to come back to the Tori and Jordan, where Jordan threw in Fessel after making a deal and Tori making a deal and being the liaison between Jordan and Fessel. They get into a big fight again. Who would have saw that coming? They start yelling at each other, and then Jordan, at the end of all of it, actually does a very surprising thing and very impressive thing, in my opinion, which was he took accountability. He took responsibility for making a decision and going back on his word out of spite. And he apologized not only to Tori, but also to Fessel. That was the biggest blind side in this whole reunion, in my opinion. And can I just say, it's at this point where I feel it's a little bit awkward. The vibe inside the studio is a little bit awkward in the sense that there is no studio audience. So some of these burns, some of these fights, some of these snapbacks that people are having with each other and these arguments kind of fall flat when you hear the people's voices echo off into the distance with no reaction whatsoever. We finally get into the final. When we get to Olivia, Maria asks about her injury that she sustained with the golf ball. And Olivia says that she was told that if the golf ball would have gone into her eye, that it would have flung straight back into her brain and she could have died. When I was talking about it weeks ago, I was thinking, wow, she is lucky that it didn't hit into her eye, and then she could have possibly gone blind. She could have lost an eye. But hearing just how bad it could have been to the point where it was lethal, MTV, you have got to take more care and precautions with the cast members. This, my goodness, like this could have been absolutely dire. Just have the proper safety equipment. I mean, realistically, I thought that it could have been way worse, but my first instinct wasn't that it could have been Olivia's actual life on the line. I mean, oh my gosh. There's so much more that we're going to be looking at as the audience, being like, are you taking enough care and precautions and giving everybody the proper safety equipment so we are never having to be put into that situation ever again? I mean, they are replaying Olivia's injury over and over and over and over again when everybody involved should be counting their lucky stars that it wasn't worse. That it wasn't worse. Oh my gosh. We go to a commercial break. We come back. Devin pulls a safety dagger to not answer a fan's question. It wasn't even that spicy of a question, so it was fine to just move on. We then go to the segment where Maria Menounos is trying to cue up Nani's journey and how she was able to compete at a high level with dealing with the passing of her mother. And Maria was getting very emotional when trying to get into the segment and introduce the segment, because we find out that Maria also lost her mother very closely to the time when Nani lost her mother. So there is that connection, there is that bond that the two share, and Maria said that she cried with Nani throughout this whole season. It was a really nice, touching, human moment at the reunion, in my opinion. I think that was one of the more real moments that we got from anybody on this reunion stage. We have Nani talking about that she could have just stayed home, but she knew that her mother did so much for her and that she wanted to come into the game, fight, and she came out stronger than ever. She said that she left the season and being like, I could do all that after everything I've went through. If I can do all of that, nothing can stop me outside of this game. And I thought that that was a great moment to end on. Yes, it was very emotional. Yes, it was sad. It left a lot of people in tears on the stage. However, then we get like it with 8 to 7 minutes left in this runtime. Then we hear a cue up from Maria Menounos asking, should contestants help other players while in an elimination? We'll debate that next. We get another commercial break with Whopper, Junior Bacon, Triple Whopper, probably played like 2 times. Then we come back with 3 minutes left in this reunion. We get a full recap of people being helped in an elimination. And then we get a few talking points here where Michelle's like, nobody should help out. We got screwed because everybody was helping out and we couldn't communicate. Jordan and Bananas are coming at Michelle being like, that was how the game is always played. It's never going to change. So why are we even arguing about it? Nobody else feels like maybe we should stop this. Nobody is on the side of Michelle. Everybody just stays quiet until Devin says, well, we all helped Turbo and nobody cared when we did that, and nobody cares that Turbo was eliminated. And that's when Maria previews that they actually have Turbo in studio. It sounds like they got him to record a video, kind of like how he did in War of the Worlds 2, where he made a video on a set of one of his movies and then they played it. So I'm expecting at the start of next week's reunion part 2 that they will play a pre-made, pre-recorded, edited video of Turbo saying hey to all the competitors and how he dislikes all of them because they are weak for helping Olivia and Horacio, and it was Turbo versus the world. I can't believe that was the cliffhanger. That was a cliffhanger we left on. So yeah, that's the whole reunion part 1. Like I said, nothing was really that incredibly astounding. Nothing that really knocked my socks off, nothing too spicy. I did think Olivia talking about how serious her injury could have been if hit just 1 inch on either side of her face could have been. I can't believe that. And also Jordan saying sorry to both Tori and Fessel for him voting in Fessel. Other than that, it's pretty run-of-the-mill kind of reunion, and I expected nothing more or nothing less from this reunion part 1. But am I being too harsh on the reunion? Did you actually find a lot more spice and a lot more excitement than I did? Let me know down in the comment section below, because like I said at the beginning of this video, I'll be doing a comment palooza for Friday, where I take a good amount of comments from this video, and I'm going to highlight them, read them out on the video, and answer, comment, and reply to a lot of comments from this video. So please leave me any and all comments that you had about this reunion, or what the competitors were wearing, or the questions were good, the questions were bad. Leave me really fun comments for me to go through and read and talk about on tomorrow's Tiny Table Talk. But for now, I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video up to this point. I'll be back with more Challenge 38 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.